Welcome to the Propertybuyer Podcast, where we explore the world of residential and commercial real estate to help you make better decisions about buying, selling, or investing in all types of property. Join me, Rich Harvey, CEO of propertybuyer.com.au and multi-award-winning buyer's advocate. Our podcast features expert interviews, market trends and insights, and practical tips for navigating the complex world of Australian real estate. Whether you're a home buyer, a seasoned property investor, commercial buyer, developer, or simply curious about the property market, our podcast is for you. Join us as we share our knowledge, strategies, and experience and help you achieve your property goals. Welcome to another edition of the Propertybuyer Podcast. Prestige property on Sydney's lower North Shore is highly sought after and commands a premium price. But what's happening in this segment of the market right now? Has this market peaked, or is there more momentum to come? What will drive property prices in this location? And is the demographic makeup changing? Who's moving in and who's moving out? Well, today I'm thrilled to have Michael Coombs with us. He's a true powerhouse in the real estate world. Michael is the director and licensee in charge for Atlas Lower North Shore. He's got 22 years experience and sold over $3.5 billion in sales. He's also renowned for his extensive network, reaching locals and international spheres, strong ties to the expat community. But he's also known as the entrepreneurial agent, and Michael, I'd love to unpack that with you. And you've got strong connections with charities and local groups. So really great to have you on board today, Michael.
Hey, great to be here. Good to see you.
Awesome. So look, we have a little tradition, Michael. I'm going to throw you a curveball, a thought of the week, where I just want to get your response to this quote. And the quote's from Christopher Columbus, the famous explorer, who said, "You can never cross the ocean until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore." What do you take from that?
I like it. It's like burn the boats, isn't it, really?
No turning back.
It's no turning back. I think when you're hearing that straight away, I love it, because I think if you commit to something and give it 100%, you look forward rather than backwards, that's how you succeed. So,
yeah. Have you done that in your own life at all? Cut
quite
ties?
A bit, actually.
Yeah?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Well, let's unpack that a bit, yeah?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think if I do something, I think my team will vouch for it. If I'm doing a gratitude thing with them at the moment for the 4 weeks, and they've got to send a gratitude thing, or they offer to. We send a little gratitude thing every morning, and it's got to be every single day. So when I commit to something, I definitely look straight ahead.
Full tilt. Love it. Fantastic. So tell me a bit about your background. How did you get into real estate? What was your first job? What was it like?
Yeah, so when I started, I'm getting old now. I'm nearly 46 this year.
Not old, mate.
I'm in my prime. I started out, I actually left school when I finished school and did landscaping trade. And then I was 3 years into landscaping, and I actually hired a couple of friends and started running this small company. Wow. And at night time I started doing TAFE and did my real estate license while I was doing landscaping. Right. And then got my first job in my early 20s. I had to cut my surfy hair and take out an earring in my ear to get the job. I was pretty persistent. And that's where I started. And I started off at the very bottom, doing letterbox drops, just collecting data, cutting articles out of the local paper and pasting them before UPI data and Price Finder. And just worked my way up over many years.
And was this around the lower North Shore?
Started on the lower North Shore. I grew up in the northern beaches around Manly, that area, and I've always worked on the lower North Shore, so I started in Neutral Bay and Mossman.
Awesome. You still a surfer?
Yeah, don't get out as much, and I'm a bit older now, so I've got a longer board, but sometimes, I still get out when I can.
I might see you out there occasionally, but I'll be the one falling off all the time, mate. I'm still on my old plates on the
a bit like that too.
Yeah, good on you. So tell me about your, geographic coverage. What areas do you cover, and I guess how many people have you got in your sales team?
Yeah, so it's changed quite a bit with our business Atlas. We started Atlas 5 years ago, and it keeps evolving and changing. And the reason I wanted to do that was just to have better reach in more areas and target more areas. It's more following my buyers. When you get to start to work and have the privilege of working in the upper end of buyers, they have properties in different locations. You make really good clients. So I didn't want to be restricted from your standard franchises. So I predominantly do a lot on the lower North Shore. I extend to further suburbs around, depending. I've built really good relationships with a lot of agents in different companies, and I've sort of expanded now. So we've got an office in Byron Bay.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, that sort of happened organically. A very good client of mine asked me to sell the house at Waddy Beach, and I said no for 2 weeks. This was before COVID.
Yes.
And then he begged me to go up there, and I sold a few properties for him. Went up there, went for a surf with him. There was dolphins out, there was whales.
Magic.
Yeah. Took on the listing, sold it five days later, and broke the record by 4 million.
Wow.
And then I realised that all the buyers up there were coming from Sydney.
Of course. What did you sell that property for?
22 million.
Wow.
Back in 2019 or 2020.
Yeah. Well, it's so tightly held. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah. And then we sort of ventured down. So at the moment we're doing a little bit down the south coast, Mollymook, Bowral, Byron Bay, and Queenstown.
Okay.
So I'm going to the areas my clients go, and pretty nice areas to work in as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Well, it makes a lot of sense. And how many sales agents have you got in your team?
I've changed my team a little bit. I've got a lot of senior agents working with me now, rather than just have your standard senior agent and a big team. Our business just allows us to do a lot more on the back end and more support. So, and we network quite a bit within all the agents in the office. But I run with a team of 4, and then I work closely with 2 other agents who link into my team as well.
Okay, fantastic. So I want to get you to sort of explain, for those that don't know perhaps the Lower North Shore. I know a lot of people listening to this will probably be residents of the North Shore, but there's going to be a lot of people listening to it, expats or from other states.
Yes.
What sort of characterises the Lower North Shore property market? What's its unique features that you would say it has?
Yeah, one thing I love about it too, it expands over quite a few suburbs. It's close to the city, it's close to the beach, and you've got everything from a 1-bedroom apartment up to the most beautiful estates in the country. So even you look at Mossman alone, which is obviously one of our main suburbs, there's almost 5 suburbs within that suburb of different areas. So one of the things I love about it, and it's being someone's from the northern beaches, and I like getting into the city as well, so it's sort of that middle ground for anyone. So it opens up to a broader audience, I guess.
Where do you delineate the finish of the Lower North Shore versus the Upper North Shore? Do you say Linfield, Roseville is kind of that demarcation?
I would say Lower North Shore is probably sort of around your Northbridge, and that's sort of mid North Shore. I call it Lower North Shore now because I do a bit of business around Castle Craig and Northbridge, which is a beautiful area.
Aren't they hidden gems around there? I was born in Castle Craig.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've got a beautiful property there on the water, one of the best properties that's come to market, but special. And then we could say the Spit Bridge, and it goes over, but we've sort of gone across the Spit Bridge as well, and around Seaforth and Qantas. So, but it's normally really the Spit Bridge up to Northbridge. Got it.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, the homes are really prestigious. They're obviously the upper price point. Do you have a particular vernacular or terminology you use? Do you sort of have a category for 5 to 10 million, 10 to 20 million? How do you categorise the different price points in the prestige market?
Yeah, I normally say sort of our prestige kicks in about 10 million. That's what we normally say. If it's a prestige property, it's north of 10. Our super prestige would be 30 plus. I mean, for us too, there's some great properties in all areas in Mossman too. So I guess we use the word luxury. Luxury is probably more about the property than a price point. Like I've sold 2-bedroom apartments which are a luxury and very high-end finish. So I think for us in our area, we call everything luxury if it's a high quality and a good location. But I normally say my prestige market is 10 million plus.
Yeah, great. Okay. And your record sale is 40 million, is that correct? Yeah. What street was that in?
Over in Clifton Gardens.
Clifton Gardens, beautiful. Yeah. So I bought a few properties for clients around the area. My most memorable was in Fairfax Avenue, which had direct views straight up the guts.
That's a great spot.
It was great, and the client bought it, and then he paid 120 grand to get the telegraph poles under the ground. Disrupt his view.
It's a great street.
It's a fantastic spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really good spot. So tell me more about the kind of buyers that are operating in this space. How do luxury buyers, how do they approach this whole idea of buying luxury real estate? What are the features they particularly look for?
Yeah, I guess everyone's got their own sort of features, depending if they're a young family or they've got older kids or their situations. A lot of the main things people come through at the upper end, they definitely want sort of space, privacy, key streets and locations, just so there's a couple of areas in Mossman where there's beautiful wide streets that are not as busy and sort of north facing. Same with the waterfronts as well. So there's sort of key streets they focus on. A lot of the buyers now too, it's more just convenience. I think the old days it was the bigger the property, bigger the house. People it's more like, I want something luxurious, but I want to be able to lock up and leave.
You don't have to clean it.
Don't have to have gardening every weekend. So it's a bit different at the moment.
Interesting. What's the average hold time for people in this sort of premium prestige area up to 10 million? Because it seems like the market's pretty tightly held. They don't come up all that often.
Yeah, there's a couple of key properties which haven't turned over in 20, 30 years. But I'll say at the moment, it's probably turnover which should be about every 8 to 10 years. It's probably a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
I'm finding it's probably about 5 to 6 on some properties.
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
That's sort of your 10 to 20.
That's surprisingly short in my view.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
Is that because they're kind of moving businesses, they're moving over?
I think with everything going on at the moment, people are actually in positions where they make more money, people aren't making as much money. I'm finding people, just life's changing a lot because I deal a lot with expats. They're moving overseas, coming back. Yeah. So there's just a lot more migration.
Yeah, fantastic. You're right about the privacy thing, because I go as a buyer's agent, me and my team, we see a lot of properties every week. You know, we could see anywhere from 50 to 100 properties per week for a client. And the thing that strikes me about particularly sort of the Moss and Cremorne Neutral Bay market is there's some properties that are just not private. Like they're multi-million-dollar properties, but your neighbour's looking over. You know? And I think if you can find a property that's got a wonderful backyard, that's going to, or just that private element, that's really going to command a price.
Absolutely.
And also the view, because there's different grades of views, right? You've got fantastic views from Kirribilli right out to the bridge, but you've got obscured views. Talk to me about what kind of views people get in this area.
Yeah, a lot of people like, if they're down more, they like that view out to the heads. It's kind of a nice look straight out the harbour. Yeah. That's quite popular. If you go sort of on the southern side of sort of Clifton Gardens through the bay there's a beautiful night view. You get all the harbour, you get all the action, you get all the bridge. You go further out, obviously where you grew up at Castle Craig and Northbridge too, you've got beautiful views up the harbour there too, which is still greenery and bush and out to the parks and that, which is lovely. So there's quite a few options.
What about undiscovered pockets? Because you just mentioned Castle Craig, Castle Cove. Like before you get over the Rosewood Bridge, you've got the upper reaches at Middle Harbour, which is kind of becoming more discovered. Castle Craig's only got less than 1,000 properties in that market. But there's some beautiful properties on the Tor Walk and all those areas that are very bushy. But they have really beautiful views, but they've got Middle Harbour views, but not direct over to Sydney Harbour views. Tell me about the price points you think are perhaps more.
It's probably a little bit undervalued still, Castle Craig. Northbridge has really seen a rise. We've sold quite a few properties which have broke the record in Northbridge, and that's more from seeing buyers that are looking in the eastern suburbs or Moss. When you take them to a Northbridge or a Seaforth or Castle Craig, they get a lot more for their money there, a lot bigger, and realise they're quite central locations, especially if you're going to the city or you're heading north. Castle Craig would be my pick for property. We've got something on there now. We've had interest around 25 million for a new waterfront.
Amazing. Yeah, it's just incredible how much it's moved up. You're also right about buyers from the east coming across the bridge and going, wow, okay, Bellevue Hill, this would be 35 million, but here I can buy it for 17 or 20. And really the distance is not that far back to the city.
And everyone's a bit more relaxed over here.
Exactly. And you've got a bit more space to park the car, right? I mean, that's the other unique benefit. Look at now, we're recording this in November. The jacarandas are out. It's beautiful. The streetscapes are amazing. But getting in and out of New South Head Road sometimes it's a nightmare, right?
Yeah, I think going back, I'm a bit of a numbers person. It's one of my subjects at school. It's all about numbers. And with our business too, we can track where everyone's coming from and data as well, which I'm all across. But I go back 10 years ago, I think it was about 4% of the eastern suburbs coming across. Now it's north of 20.
Wow, that's huge. Wow.
And for that reason, they're coming across here. It's still easy to go through the tunnel, get back into the eastern suburbs. You can connect with all different schools, easy to the city, and you do get more for your money over here.
Excellent. Talk to me about expat and foreign buyers. Like, how frequently do you deal with the expats and the foreign buyers, and what countries are they coming from?
Yeah, it's a good sector of my market, and it's sort of happened over the last 5 years. I've just had a few good sales and dealt with clients in all different industries, and my business now, which allows us not just to focus on locally. I've got reaches. I've got 59 overseas agents that I deal with, refer business with. So what I normally do, it's sort of keeping across. So obviously when the Aussie dollar is down at the moment, my US expats, so I've got about 5 clients coming out of the States at the moment looking. I deal a lot with offshore from Hong Kong, Singapore, but mainly at the moment it's actually the States I've got the most interest personally. Buyers looking.
What about Singapore, Hong Kong? When you're coming out of there?
Yeah, they're pretty consistent. They're always. A bit from the UK as well. But at the moment, as soon as the Aussie dollar drops and people feel that the market is going to improve over time, so I think that people are thinking, well, the market is probably going to get better than worse, and the Aussie dollar's low, then I get a big surge of expats.
Yeah, right. Fascinating. So what about foreign buyers? I mean, Chinese buyers and Asian buyers have been hard hit by all the extra taxes, the extra stamp duty and the ghost tax and all that. have they really dropped away a fair bit, or are they still a formidable force?
Yeah, I reckon it's probably halved what we were doing sort of 2 years ago. In saying that, but the ones we're dealing with are probably more educated, ready to go. A lot of my buyers will come through private bankers, lawyers, referrals, overseas agents. So we have some really good offshore buyers, but that has halved.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And the expats and the foreign buyers, well, let's start with the expats. Like, a lot of them go overseas. I often talk to expats and they go, I'm just going for 5 years rich, so just the tax rate in Singapore is 15%, I'll just make a bit of money, come back. They end up staying 10, even 15 years longer, right? But what do they buy when they come back, or what are they buying even when they're over there to keep as an investment? What sort of properties do the expats buy?
Yeah, good question. A lot of them come back and they might just, if they're coming back and just want a foothold in the market because they realise the market's going to keep moving, they tend to buy something sort of 5 to 10 million. They tend to buy something which is a good family home. They can do it, and we'll lease it out for them until they return. A lot of them will come back too, and they probably want the opposite to a lot of people in Mossman or Kirribilli. They want to be in the action, hustle and bustle. They come back and want the opposite. They want north-facing sun, they want quiet, they want space, because they've probably been in Hong Kong or Singapore. They normally come back and just want something with space and space for the kids and family and nice and quiet.
Yeah, okay. And the foreign buyers, obviously they've got to buy brand new.
Yeah.
Is there much stock available, and does it go fairly quickly in terms of the
look, I mean, some of them obviously have to buy brand new, and there's other visas obviously they can get to, which allows them to the properties. But yeah, there's a few properties around for them. They tend to, again, that market will tend to want sort of the bigger properties, waterfronts, closer to the water, the big views. That's especially that big Sydney harbour view.
The iconic view.
Iconic view.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, okay. Dealing with someone like an expat, or not an expat, but say a foreign buyer, or someone that's not familiar with transacting properties in Australia, how do you explain the buying process to that person? You know, do they share their budget with you, or is it more about finding the right home for them?
Yeah, look, first I'll probably send them to you so you can look after them.
Absolutely.
Have a good buyer's agent, makes everyone's life a lot easier on both sides. Normally I sit down, I like to meet them and just understand their needs first. I think they have to feel comfortable with you. I do need to work out what their budget is, just so I can make sure I'm not wasting their time or mine. But normally I sit down and sort of explain the process, run them through what could happen, what my peak times that they should be looking. So I try and get all that information to them first, so then they feel comfortable. Especially if they want to buy in a short period, then it's a matter of giving a lot of information and narrowing it down and making sure if they're looking at 5 properties, they have an intention to buy one.
Yeah. You mentioned peak times. Do you find in your business or throughout the year there's a couple of peaks in the year? When do you find that happens?
Yeah, so we're selling property all time through the year now, but still, me in February, March is always really strong because my business now works with the local, works with expats, works with the Asian market, works in a broad area. I tend to find the new year everyone comes back and everyone's a bit happier. They've had a holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice break.
In a good mood,
The Chinese like buying around Chinese New Year. It's good luck to buy around that time, as you know. And then also, because I'm sure quite strong with the expats come back, kids go back into school. So I tend to find I usually have a break at that time. Doing the luxury property, high end, most of my clients and then buyers are away in school holidays, which is great for me. I've got 2 kids, so I'm away school holidays as well. But they're probably the peak. So I sort of go cycles with the school holidays. But now, between now and Christmas is busy, and then February, March is really busy for me as well.
Yeah. We find our business, that period sort of from late February to Easter, early April, is very busy. We get a peak in inquiry. Winter, it kind of drops off. That's a great time to buy. And then you've got a big surge of interest in spring. People just go, now's the time to buy. But honestly, if I was selling my house, I'd probably think about selling it in winter. Don't you reckon? Because it's just a lack of listings. There haven't got as much competition.
So true.
Depending on the Sydney winter. We had a cold one this year. But some years we have very mild winters.
I'll do a lot of off-market deals in winter and get good prices. And I guess if the client coming on in spring, which I'm aware of, and then if a client comes in and looking through winter, we'll sell it off-market. Sometimes winter here can be a little bit harder because people usually buy and sell at the same time. There's nothing to go to.
Gotcha. Let's talk about, I guess, the state of the market. Let's talk about just Sydney at the moment, not Melbourne or Brisbane or anywhere, because I do other stuff on that. But tell me about how you perceive the state of the market right now.
Yeah, it's good. It's healthy. Good market.
You think it's balanced, not a buyer's market, not a seller's market?
No, it's a balanced market. Plenty of buyers around. Buyers are just sitting on the fence a little bit. So, I mean, if I was a buyer looking now, I'd probably look at doing something now, thinking and wait too long. there's a lot of property available. Our buyer inquiry in the last 3 weeks has been up 30% from last year, so we know there's 30% of buyers. And I tend to find that when there's a few sales go through, the floodgates open. So buyers have a few options now, and I guess from a buyer's point of view, they just don't want to be sort of misled thinking they've come into the market, look how many properties we've got to choose on, there's a few price adjustments, then all of a sudden a few sales go through and they miss the window next year, and then they're waiting to next spring. So it's a healthy market. You just got to really work to get a deal done.
What about auctions? Like how many? I mean, how many of your properties do you put to auction? All of them?
Probably about 70%.
And how many active bidders when they actually get to auction? If unless you sold prior, how many actually bidders do you see on your properties?
At the moment, we're getting about 3 or 4. So it's still quite strong. Even properties though, we might have 10 interested. We're only getting 3 or 4 bidding. It's sort of sitting on the hands a little bit still.
All those people that say, I'm just waiting to see what happens, Rich. I'm just waiting to see what happens.
They're waiting to follow everyone else. So my line the other day was, what are you waiting for the prices to go up?
So talking of that, what's your outlook for next 2025? You know, there's talk of potential interest rate cuts. Do you think the vendors are still nervous to list? Where do you see it going next year?
Yeah, they're definitely, from buyers and vendors, are a bit nervous at the moment. They're sitting on the fence. I guess they want a bit more confidence, and it is building though. I do think we're going to have a strong finish to the year. I mean, I've got about 14 listings at the moment. I have probably interest on most of them at the moment. So I think we're going to have a busy run to the end of the year, and I think in the new year will be quite strong too. And since COVID, just everything's changed with your house. It was all about how do I make more money? What do I do this? It's $1. Building costs are high. Like I think now people just want to get on and enjoy life.
Yes.
So they can wait if it's a bad market. They don't want to wait too long. And we're seeing that now with a surge of properties coming on. Buyer inquiries and open homes are up 30%. We're going to November. So I think we'll have a pretty steady next year.
We really appreciate you tuning in to the Property Buyer Podcast, and I hope that you're finding our expert interviews helpful. So that we can keep providing this information and growing our audience, we rely on word-of-mouth recommendations. If you found this information useful, could I please ask you to share this podcast with your friends, family and colleagues, and ask them to subscribe to the Property Buyer Podcast. It would be a big help, and we'd be very grateful for your support. Thanks once again for sharing the links. And now, let's get back to the podcast. COVID changed a lot of things, right? I mean, it's amazing. People, first couple of months, everyone thought, no, this is going to be, no one's going to do anything. Yeah. And then the market exploded. We doubled our team and did really well during COVID. We did so many off-market transactions. It was unbelievable. But everyone wanted more space for the kids because they were going crazy. Right? They needed to study because they had to work from home. They needed more space. So everyone was frantically changing houses to try and get a better deal.
Well, I went down south on the first month thinking it was doom and gloom and sold 52 million on my laptop. Down the south coast with my family.
You should go away on holidays.
That was a game changer. So then all the technology and back-end stuff and everything we do now, it sort of triggered me then to get on top of things.
Yeah, fantastic. What do you think's holding the buyers back from actually making decisions to act now and buy?
So there's probably one thing we're finding. Buyers are a little bit nervous because they're not sure on the true value of their own home. So they're going and buy. They want to buy and then sell. They're just finding the confidence to maybe buy and then do a long settlement. The other thing too, again, no matter what price point, people don't do this all the time. They tend to follow the herd.
Yes.
I mean, again, smart buys for me. There's always a little bit of risk. As we buy and sell property, there's risk somewhere. And I'm not a gambling man, but I look at it now and think, well, the market's been slow, things are picking up, they're talking about interest rate rises, a lot of stock on the market. I'd be jumping in and buying now rather than sitting and wait because it changes pretty quickly.
It does.
And all of a sudden there's 4 or 5 sales go through in your suburb and then everything moves and you've missed your window.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, my prediction of next year, Michael, I think we're going to see a rate cut in either February or March. That's the first one. It'll be 1.25.
Yeah.
That'll kind of just bring a little bit of confidence back. Second rate cut will really cement confidence, and the third rate cut, you'll start to see the market accelerate rapidly.
Yeah. And are your clients sitting on the fence?
A lot of them are. We have a lot of inquiries. It's a really weird sort of stage at the moment. We're seeing a lot of inquiries coming through, but people are going, I'm just waiting to see what happens.
Yes.
Well, I know what I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The market will reignite next year.
Yeah.
There'll be a surge of buyers.
Yeah.
Something you could have bought at 5 million, it'll be 5.5 or more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a question of, and the big things underlying that is stock supply.
Yeah.
Shortage of properties of housing in Australia.
Yes.
We're not building enough, particularly in the prestige area.
Yeah.
It's just not enough of it. So Talk to me a little bit about property types.
Yep.
So obviously in the Mossman market, they've still got a bunch of units, but I mean, do you have any figures on the breakup between townhouses, houses and apartments in the market, and what's most in demand?
Yeah, so it's just different areas. You go to sort of Beauty Point, it's predominantly 90% houses. You go down to Balmoral, it quite changes. You go to sort of down your Mossman Bay, then jumps up 70% apartments. So there's different areas in that place, but demand at the moment, there's still quite demand for the high-end property. Like the amount of buyers I have with pretty open budgets and is probably triple to what it was a year or two ago. So I tend to find in the luxury sector, properties that are good estates, like nice tennis courts, beautifully done, waterfronts are always popular, key streets are quite popular, luxury apartments for downsizers. But we're pretty good along this area because I find everything we've got we're selling everything from a 2-bedroom up to some of the best properties, and all of it's pretty steady.
Fascinating, yeah. And we kind of touched on this question before, but where are the buyers coming from? How many are local versus out of area versus overseas?
Yeah, it's interesting because my last business, I was adamant that 85% were coming local, and that's because all the business allowed me to do, and that's all. I wasn't doing anything else. Now I've got a business now where I'm dealing with 59 overseas agents, a lot more buyers agents, dealing with relocation agents. I'm dealing with I've got a good network with probably the top 30 agents in the country. With that, I share a big chunk of commission with them, vice versa. Yeah. So anyone coming into my area, I get a lot of referrals with good buyers. At the moment, it's 33% are coming local.
Okay, that's a big proportion coming outside.
Yeah, it's a big proportion, a big chunk with expats at the moment.
We've noticed as well, there's such a diversity of buyers coming through our business, and they're coming from everywhere. You know, it's now, we're borderless in so many ways, and particularly buyers are just going, I want the best value property I can get. Yes. And life's worth living, and I want to live it now. There's more of that.
And they're not suburb focused. They're going, I'm in this area, and this is the house I want. I look over 5 suburbs.
I think people kind of reevaluated their mortality during COVID, and I want my best life now, and therefore I want my best house now. I don't want to wait too long. I mean, younger people have to get on the property ladder and work their way up, but some people just know, I want to jump a few steps and get into this.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Tell me about pricing, where you think pricing's going, and I guess, firstly, where do you think prices are going to go next year?
Yeah, I think we've had a little dip recently. There's just been a few properties on and had a few price alignments. So I think we'll sort of plateau a little bit as well. There is sort of probably, I'd say, a 10% gap where at the moment.
Please just so honest to say that. See, not many agents would have the honesty that you have in there.
Yeah, that's true.
And we've noticed it too, because we've seen the auction clearance rates drop. And all of my team, I'm saying to my team, guys, we've got to get the message out there. The next 4 to 6 months is the one window of opportunity, especially for the home buyers in the prestige market, to get in and do well before it really, really accelerates.
Especially at lower end of the market. As soon as the interest rate cuts and it goes the other way, then investors are back in and everyone's back in. So
exactly. I mean, even the investors are coming back now. I mean, it's like 37% of new loans are going to investors. But I definitely think prices will definitely dipped a little bit. You got Louis Christopher saying, it's going to be negative. He's a bit more negative. But, at the end of the day, it's going to come back,
So probably it's a 10% gap where we are at the moment. Most properties, a 10% gap where the buyers are and the vendors are.
Got it. So just on that, how do you then educate your vendor as to what is the current market value? Like when you go in and do your listing appraisal, how do you sit down with them and tell Mr. and Mrs. Smith their property is worth X? Yeah,
so I guess the first thing is we'd be very honest with them and transparent, and it depends on their decision. If they're looking to make a move and depending on the money, we're like, this is your bottom. Focus on this bottom line, because if you're going to buy a property based on this is where you need to be, but this is how we think we can hit it. So we're making sure we're giving them the direct information. We sort of go through a lot of evidence of what's sold, a lot more information. It's not just on the value of the property on a bit of paper from a values point of view, it's what the buyer demand is. I give them stats on how many numbers we're having in similar open houses. Of course, we've got a good team of 25 agents here and we've got a good market share. We do have a finger on the pulse quite well. So we can sit there with confidence and say, we just sold these 5 in the last month, we sold these 10 over the last, so we can give them that sort of confidence. We know where the value is. But I look at a few things for the value.
I mean, for me, it's like if I go to an auction and we miss out, and I go, hey, there were 10 other bidders that missed out and they went to this level, I know there's demand. But if I go to an auction and I get it and go, I'm just beating one other guy, the market's a lot softer. Correct. So those kind of stats are very important to me, and I think that's not always, you can't get that in the papers. You can't get that sort of buyer demand stat. So that's where you've got to have boots on the ground really to find out that
makes a big difference. Totally agree.
Talk to me a bit about undervalued areas. You mentioned one before, but is there any other in your lower North Shore market, any suburbs or hot tips you'd sort of say you think that relatively the next 5 years are currently undervalued?
Yeah, I think sort of Balgowlah is an area,
Balgowlah,
even though it's a little bit further on the northern beaches. I just find there's a lot of movement from the lower North Shore down to Manly. Manly is just an area now with so many nice restaurants. It's a bit more upmarket, not as rough as it used to be when I grew up. It's just nice down at the beach. So we're getting a lot of movement. And as, I guess, with COVID, people not being in the city as much, there's a bit bridges change. I think Balgowlah is going to be an area that's going to really thrive. Yeah. And Castle Craig's another one. Yeah. I also think a little bit further out, you've got Wollstonecraft and Cammeray. Yeah. It's still a little bit undervalued. And they're just such good locations and central. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, Balgowlah. I think I bought a few properties there for clients and did really well. I bought one off market last year for 5.5. Yep. It'd be worth 6.5 today. Yeah. Easy. It's just a great end. Balgowlah Heights too. We've got the views as well. I think it's at North Balgowlah. Well, North Balgowlah's a lot cheaper near Wakehurst Golf Club, but I think it's a really undervalued pocket. Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah. Tell me about, if you're happy to share, just your experience in dealing with buyers agents. Have you had some good interactions? How does it help or hinder the process? How have you found it?
Look, I'm sort of selective with the buyers agents. Like, I like working with you. I like working with people that know what they're doing and they just have the same values. I think in any industry, when you align yourself with people that do the right thing by their clients, they work hard, they want to make something happen rather than hinder something. It makes it so much easier. Yeah. Like I've even looked at property out of other areas. I'd use a buyer's agent. I just think it's, even though I'm in the industry, it just makes life so much easier. you pay for what you get.
Exactly. It's like me. I tried to sell my own house 25 years ago before I got in the industry. I'd never do it again. I ended up using an agent.
Yes.
Put my own I thought I'd save money. Before I became a buyer's agent, I thought, I don't want to pay 15 grand to an agent. Why would I do that? And then, honestly, dealing with negotiations was a nightmare. Yeah. Just having that objectivity, having that third-party independent person makes such a difference.
Makes a big difference.
And I've saved my clients millions of dollars on some transactions.
And you know what you're doing. It's like if you go into another industry, you don't know what you're doing. You want a professional to help you, especially when they're on your side.
100%. So how do you, just when you're dealing with the ordinary buyer and also buyer's agent, how do you approach the negotiation process? And I guess how should buyers approach you to get the best outcome?
Yeah, so
because I think it's quite the reason I've asked the question. Some people are very adversarial. They think, the agent's just out to get me, and I can't trust the agent.
But which is fair enough, because there's some agents that play games, and it makes a lot harder for everyone.
So how do you negotiate?
I try to be as transparent as possible. First, I understand what their needs are and what they want to do, and then I sit down. If they don't know the values in the area, I encourage them to come sit with me in the office. Occasionally, and I've asked the vendor this, I pull out and let them know what I've got on my agency agreement. I'm very clear when someone comes for a property, here's my price range. Legally, agents can only have a 10% range, and this is what we're quoting on the range. I found I get a lot of repeat business, and I think at a property the other week there were 6 underbidders, 5 have come back and just want to buy through us, and I think that's a good example of my team, that you're looking after people, even though they missed out or went further than what they wanted to pay. Exactly. But I find with negotiations, I sit down and try and educate them a little bit more, be clearer with them, tell them where we're at. If the price is getting a lot higher and I have interest, I ring them and say, look, interest is getting up at this range, because I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want a poor family standing there at an auction that goes 2 million over. I tend to let them know, look, it's not guaranteed, but the feedback's at this and we're moving higher. I don't want you to go spending thousands of dollars if you can't even, because we're not even there. So I find that's probably the best way to negotiate, and just give them evidence. And I encourage them to come look at more properties with me. I encourage them to come back to me. If they want to put an offer in, I ask them, great, even if it's a low offer, submit your offer, but just give me your reasons why it's that offer. That'd be helpful for me to bring it to the owner. And I find that process, everyone's on the same page and everyone wants an outcome.
It's fair. In dealing with you, I love that transparency. It just stops any time wasting. But do you think many agents still underquote? Are you seeing any evidence of that out there at the moment? Without naming names?
Yeah, probably a few. I think they overquote to get a listing. And then all of a sudden there's a big price drop, which is not good. Most of them are pretty good. The most top performers I'm up against at the moment around here, and I'm pretty privileged because a lot of the best agents are in our office as well, which is good. There's a little bit out there, but I think it's there's enough evidence now where people can do research online that you can kind of value it a lot quicker than you used to be able to.
Brilliant. Tell me what you like about being a sales agent. You've been doing this 22 years, is that right?
22 years, coming on 23.
What do you like about it? What brings you satisfaction?
I'm someone who I sort of love the chase a little bit as well. I'm not going to lie. Look, I go to an auction now too, and I love it. I love just seeing it, and not from a point of achieving something for myself or an outcome, like just the excitement that you see people that had clients have been in such difficult financial positions, and this is everything they've got, and you go there and blow it out of the water. I had one not long ago, and we got I think $1.5 million higher than what they were expected.
Wow.
And it wasn't from anything. It was just we did the campaign, they did everything we said, and they walk away and all families in tears, and it's changed their life.
Awesome.
So you can do some great things, but I love just everything changes. Yeah, the market changes, conditions change. I mean, we're one of the top performers out here, and say it with gratitude. And there's always, I like being on my toes a little bit. I like sort of changing things, changing with the market, changing the company. What strategy we can do, keep evolving.
Awesome.
It's kind of exciting. I feel like, especially now I've own this business and have a bit more free rein on how we build and grow and network and do things more entrepreneurial, I guess. It's exciting. I feel like I'm 22 again.
Awesome. That's great. I love your energy, Michael. That's fantastic. Yeah. Talking about building your business, PropTech, AI, it's sort of the new fashion in town. What have you adopted in your own business to sort of help keep up with technology and help you?
Yeah, so I think when it first started a few years ago, we did a lot, and it actually made things more complicated. There was just too many systems. Now we sort of keep it quite simple. We're doing a lot of AI stuff, which scrapes data and gives us information. I'm trying to just take away that middle person. We definitely I use the AI quite well for data and using it to know where my buyers are coming from, when I'm sending out stuff, it's going to people at the right time. I know what country they're in. If there's orphan data we call it that hasn't been used or sitting in there untagged, they can sort of do that a lot better. But then it always got to stem back to our agents here making calls that are worthwhile calls for the clients. So I want to be making 100 calls that are actually going to help my client secure a sale or list a property, rather than the old days you make 1,000 calls to get 900 people to hang up on you, 50 people to waffle on, and then maybe 50 people that actually going to sell it. So it's just, I found it's amazing I'm doing more property, selling more now. I'm more involved in the business. I'm doing more things exciting. I've got 2 young kids. I'm doing less hours. I'm achieving more, and I've just allowed the AI systems to take away the back end stuff.
Fantastic.
And allow me to sell, talk to people.
Love hearing that.
It's great.
Love the entrepreneurial. It was wonderful. Just got 2 more questions for you. Your most memorable, your intriguing sale. Can you give our listeners any kind of insights into either a memorable or intriguing
the one I had,
sale?
which is confidential, which I sold recently, was I love the challenge of trying to break a new record.
It's still a price secret, is it, at this point?
Yeah, it's sort of outsold for $40 million. And that was only recently, but the deal was sort of on, then it was off, and I knew both vendor and buyer really well. It was just, and over the years, there's 9 suburbs here, and I've had I've had 7 suburb records, but never Mossman. I've had the second highest, third highest, second highest. And even my wife was always challenging me, when are you going to get the Mossman record, with a bit of a laugh? So when that came through, that was quite exciting, because that was done, and it broke the record by $7 million. And I had another house too, back in Burren Avenue, clients I've become really close friends with. But at the time, I think it was about 10 years ago, 2011 or something, or even close, just after, nothing was selling. It was just nothing selling a couple of years after the GFC. And this vendor got me through, and I've become really good friends with them. And I sold it. It was the highest house sale. It was at 16 million. And I think it just smashed my record by 6, but it was just, I remember I even got it on the paper and framed it, put it next to my desk.
Well done. That's great. Great achievement, mate. Well done. Fantastic. So last question for you. Love to tap into your sort of property DNA. What's the best property tip that you've ever received that you'd love to share with our audience?
Best property tip. One was actually just 2. People buy when no one else. People buy when everyone's sitting on the fence. That was the thing. When you feel the market changing, or always buy when it's on the fence. And I guess, which is actually, now you've asked the question, sort of come back into my mind too. I've purchased property off a couple of projects, and I always buy. One of the things was an investment buy an investment property where there's a lot of tourism and there's a lot of activity, obviously close to the city. I've got a property here, and we're doing a development in Bonobo, Byron Bay. I've got one in Lakeview, Queenstown. And when I looked into them, they're 24/7s every day of the year. There's tourism in there, high tourism towns. So you've always got good returns on them.
Low vacancy.
Low vacancy.
Well, Michael Coombs, Director of Atlas, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Mate, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you again.
Cheers.
Thank you, Michael. So thank you again for joining us on another Property Buyer Podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thanks for being with us on another Property Buyer Podcast. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please click on the SpeakPipe link and we'll answer this during the next episode. If you're looking to buy a residential or commercial property in the near future and would like to get the added advantage of having a buyer's advocate on your side, then please reach out to my team today and send us your inquiry, and we'd be delighted to help. Please visit our website at propertybuyer.com.au, where you can stay updated with all my latest market updates, weekly blogs and live suburb profiles to help you make better property decisions. We look forward to connecting with you again on the next Property Buyer Podcast.